Women don't talk about money the way we should. Not honestly, not openly, and not with each other. But that's changing. I'm Syama Bunten, founder of Wealth Catalyst. And Getting Rich Together is where the conversation lives. Every week, a different woman, a different path, and a conversation that will change how you think about your own financial power. This community is growing and you belong in it. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave us a 5-star review so more women can find their way here. Now, let's get rich together. I am here today with the brilliant Heather Kernahan. And Heather, what I think I love just the most about who you are in this moment of your life is you stand in the midst of incredible transformation. You are now the CEO of the Content Bureau, a company you've acquired, which is like so cool, such a badass. You're a board chair, you're the author of Unstuckable, you're a global tech and marketing leader, and my love, you have advised some of the most innovative companies in the world, led global teams. And really, I feel like this is your new moment. This is the moment where Heather is like coming out in version 10.0 to take over the world. And I'm so thrilled to be with you here today. Welcome to Getting Rich Together.
Oh my God, who the hell is that, right? I'm ready to talk. I'm so excited to be here. You know, I'm a huge fan. I've heard so many stories that you've shared, and I'm excited to share mine.
Oh, you sit in front of me wearing this beautiful shade of green with this beautiful pattern. Your hair is so pretty. It's like, I never do these things on video, but sometimes I wish people could see because like the ladies, they bring mad style. And so, so I'm excited. I'm excited for this hour together. But before we jump into what you're wearing and where you're going after this, let's start with a little girl, Heather. Let's start with a little girl somewhere between the ages of 10 and 12 years old. Where were you in this beautiful world? Were you always wearing fabulous clothes? Was it pigtails, ponytails? Spill the tea, my love. What was life like?
Oh my goodness. No, I was not always a good dresser. I will say that. And I'm going to start with I'm Canadian, which I'm very proud of. I grew up in Canada, in Eastern Canada, a province called Nova Scotia, in a very small town. And by the time I was 10, my mom had been remarried. She and my dad split when I was really little. I was 1 or 2. And she was remarried and having 2 little girls who were my little sisters. And so I was really learning responsibility as a big sister. I'm pretty sure when I was 10, I got my first job, which was a paper route that I worked on. And I grew up in a family that was just busy with these 2 little kids. And I had a lot of responsibility in my family to help look after them and help my stepdad and my mom. And just, I didn't think too much about much, I just kind of helped out with my sisters and had fun with my friends.
I love that. Did the responsibility, did it dawn on you at the time? Like, were your friends also highly responsible 10-year-olds? Or were you like, oh man, I got to go do this thing, but I really want to, go to the park or hang out? What sort of responsibilities were you feeling into?
Yeah, at that time, I didn't really know how much responsibility I had. It was just part of being the family. And it was my mom and I for a long time because she was divorced so young. And it was a long time before she met my stepdad. So I remember being even smaller, 4 and 5 and going help my mom clean offices. We really grew up with not very much in that period of time. My mom was reestablishing herself independently. It was the 70s. So there, in Canada, at least, there was no requirement for a husband to pay child support. So my mom had no support at all. So from a very young age, I was always helping my mom. That was the job that I had in the family. And I loved it. She was the hero of my story. And we just did everything together. So when my sisters came along, it was like, I need help now. It was only when I got to probably 17 or 18. And then I was like, wait a second. I don't want to pick these little sisters up from school after. I want to go, to the football game, and I want to go do things that my other friends are doing, and I hadn't been able to do because I had this responsibility. And at that point, we had a conversation, and she said, "Okay, I'll figure out a different solution so you don't have to look after your sisters all the time."
Wow. I feel like at that age of 10 and 12 years old, it's like when little girls have the like fake babies, and we're like obsessed. And so like instead of the fake baby, you had like
Real
the real
baby.
babies to like to do that with. And what's so funny is I myself and my sister, and we're 12 years apart. And so it is also like there's this point where you're like, this is cool. And then there's another point where you're like, wait a second, like I'm not the mom. Like
Exactly.
this is different.
Yes. I would need to shed some of this responsibility. Yeah, they were my sidekicks. I took them everywhere for years. We did everything together until that point where I said, okay, I'm figure something else out here. I'm going to college soon. I need to get out of here and have my own life.
Yeah. So while you found yourself in high school, were you still able to work, make money on the side? Did you find yourself kind of head deep into studying? What did you know of yourself in high school, and who on earth did you think you would become?
Oh my gosh. I did not like school at all. I was not a good student. I barely scraped by. I looked at some transcripts the other day from high school and lots of comments. If she would only focus her attention, if she would only apply herself. But I just didn't like it because it didn't feel real. It was a lot of, what am I going to do with all of this? But I always had jobs. Yeah, ever since cleaning with my mom and the paper route. And then I went on to work at a restaurant, which I loved. I worked in retail, which I loved. So I really loved making money because that to me was a bit of freedom that I could spend it how I wanted. And at that point, I knew my dad. My dad lived about 2 hours away by plane, and my dad was very wealthy. So I would have these very strange experiences in high school where my family, we were not poor, but money was always a concern. And then I'd go to my father's home, which was huge and glamorous, and his life was glamorous, and I'd see something different. And then I'd come back to my home where I lived all the time. And so I had a sense, I think, early on that if I work, I can be safe, I can make money, and money could get me there someday, maybe where my father was. But I didn't have a plan or knew how to do it. I just knew like, just keep working, just keep going to work and helping my family and trying to progress, make more.
It's so interesting. I understand. It's like you see this thing, you're in proximity to it.
Yes.
And at that time, certainly the narrative I was told was you get a job and you keep it for 40 years. It's like there's this
Oh,
security of, take the job, use the job, and, retire at 65. When you were in high school and you were working, where did you like to spend your money? Was it out with friends? Was it on food? Was it shopping? Were you a saver at all? Like, how did you think about your money, your young money at that time?
yeah, I didn't save anything. I spent it all. And I would buy, I don't know, it was the 80s. So I remember buying nail polish in every neon color. And I remember buying whatever clothes I could afford because my parents couldn't buy, I mean, my stepdad and my mom couldn't buy me the things I wanted. So I would just bought whatever I wanted. I go out with my friends. There was a fair bit of drinking in high school. I think I spent a lot on alcohol. Do not recommend, but there was a lot of that. And just I spent it and I had a good time. And I'd save a lot of money to go to my dad's because he lived in a big city. So I would go shopping in the city for things like I couldn't buy when I was back in the small town that I was growing up in. So yeah, I just probably lived in the moment more than anything else.
Yeah.
I didn't know what a future could be. Because I was also so terrible at school. I just thought I don't even know if I can get into college, honestly. So I know at least I can keep working some kind of job. That was my thought during that period of time.
It was almost like working was the lifeline. Like
Yeah,
if I can get a job, if I can show up, then I will be okay
I'll be okay.
because like I can take care of myself. That's
Yes.
like a really young, independent streak, which I imagine served you very
Very well.
well. So talk.
It's also
So
required a
let's
lot of therapy, a lot of therapy.
yeah, totally. It's like these things serve us well until they don't, and
Yeah.
then you're like, wait a
Now I need to solve this feeling I have all the time. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you didn't think that university was something that was going to be possible for you.
Right.
What were the dominoes that fell while you were sort of getting ready to launch yourself, high school starting to wrap up? How did you start to export yourself into the world, and what did that start to look like for you?
When I was in grade 11, which would be junior year in Canada, there was this program that was set up at my high school, and it was an exchange program between an African country called the Gambia and Nova Scotia. So it was called the Nova Scotia Gambia Association. I know. And this professor came and he said, I've started this nonprofit, and what I'd like to do is take students from this high school to the Gambia and take Gambian students to this high school and do an exchange program and just open up the world to people living in Nova Scotia and the Gambia. So I was immediately enthralled. And I went home to my mom and I said, I've met this guy. He's doing a program. This is what it entails. Oh my God, I want to do it. I just had this overwhelming feeling like I need to leave. I need to see the world. And this sounds incredible. And I look back now and it was very detailed. There were months and months of fundraising. The families needed to get involved. My mom had to host the students from the Gambia to live with us for months. And so she made this all happen with me, including, this was quite incredible, because she couldn't pay the fee that I needed to pay to be able to participate. So I worked at a restaurant and she said to the owners of the restaurant, can I come work there, open shifts, and I will clock in under Heather's card so that she'll get all the paycheck? And can I do that for the next 6 months so that we can boost her paycheck and she can afford to pay? So she made it happen. Yeah. So I tell you all this because I did the whole program. It was transformational. And I decided I want to go to college and I want to study international development and political science because I had been to Africa. I had done all kinds of programs there around education and sexual education training and just saw the world in a different way. I'd been to London as part of the trip. So I felt if I just do a little bit better in my last year of high school, maybe I can scrape into some kind of college program around international relations. And that's what I did. I was able to get in somewhere.
I mean, hold up, wait a second. So
Yeah.
you're in Gambia. So like, first of all, you're in a little town in Nova Scotia and you're like, yeah, I'm going to go to Gambia and like, and I'm going to go do that. So when you were there, obviously there were, and certainly London has a way of opening your eyes to lots of things, but while you were in Gambia and you had a chance to see the world maybe for the very first time outside of, your systems or the infrastructure that you knew, what were some of the things that you think stuck with you all these years? What were some of the impressions you got?
Well, we landed in London first, and I remember it was I think it was the Gulf War. So there were all these gigantic tanks outside of Heathrow Airport at that time. And I was just thinking, like, I am somewhere completely different. And how am I going to act? I'm scared. Do I kind of retreat, stay in my hotel room when I'm here, or do I go out? And I just went out. I was the youngest of the group too that was there. So I felt a bit out of place. But I just said, I'm just going to go for it. And then when we got to Gambia, I just wanted to be part of everything, participate in everything. And so I started to realize, gosh, I did all this work to get here. I saved this money. I made so many things happen. I made this happen. And that was a real awakening for me. I can make things happen. I can be here and I can meet lots of people and I can keep these people in my life for a long time. And this is the start of something completely different. So it probably, from a confidence perspective, really boosted me, as well as just my worldview. I don't have to think about where I came from. I can think about the whole world as a place for me to be.
That is so incredible, Heather.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this, like opening your eyes to a different world. When my mother is from the island of Mauritius. And when I was younger, I remember going to Mauritius and just seeing the world in such different ways and in ways that I don't think I ever really fully could appreciate until I got older because of the differences of experience. And when you're young and your mind is open, there's just this absorption of life and of energy and of possibilities, which I think is such an incredible thing to experience. And what a gift to have your mother really like stand by your side in a way that's so like rock solid, go mom, like
Yeah.
how powerful. So as you were getting yourself ready for university and preparing to enter, did you think, was it like, all right, I'm going to save the world. I'm going to go into like humanities. I'm going to become a political person and like, join an NGO? Like, how did you sort of think about university, what you were studying and what you would end up doing?
Yes, I did think it would be the NGO route, because I had, when I was Gambia, they had all kinds of speakers come and meet with us. And I did meet a lot of women in particular who were part of aid organizations or rebuilding organizations or just all kinds of nonprofits who were living there and had lived all over the world. So they were endlessly fascinating to me that they had these careers where they maybe moved every 2 years and they could just see things, and it was their job to do that. So I thought I'll study international development, and then I will go into the field with an NGO, or my dream job was being part of the United Nations in a program and traveling around the world with the United Nations. And I
Yeah, that sounds cool.
did. It sounds so good. That was the dream. So I started down the path of doing that, and I spent a couple of years at college, and then I got an internship at an international peacekeeping center, which gave me the chance to meet with, again, people from all over the world who were working in the industry of peacekeeping, from governments to nonprofits to just like every corporations. People would come to this peacekeeping center and train for peacekeeping missions. And I was in my end of my second year of college, and I met a woman there who was really questioning me. She's like, "What's your life like? What do you imagine it's going to be like? Do you want to have kids? Do you want to get married?" And I had a boyfriend at that point. We'd been together for a while. And I said, "I think I do. I want to get married. I want to have kids." And she said, "Then do not enter into this industry. You need to rethink everything right now." Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, what? Oh my God." But I still remember that conversation because it made me really think at probably like 22, like, okay,
Oh.
what's the next leg going to look like? And she just taught me so much about, if you're going to go into this field and live this lifestyle, here are the things that you will likely have to give up. So it was a real reality check that I welcomed, even though I thought that was the path that I was on. Yeah.
It's interesting because I could also have seen you say, well, this woman told me I'd have to give up all these things. And I went, no way, I'm going to have it all. And like,
Really?
I could have seen it going two ways, Heather. That was definitely like,
I know. Which way did it go? No, I didn't, certainly didn't know better. I've always done that. I've always looked at people that are doing things that I am very interested in doing and
yeah.
deeply questioning them about what's going on and really listening, because they know a lot more than I do.
Okay, so this fabulous woman course corrects you, gets your head on straight. I wish all of us had someone like that in our lives to be like, hey, I wish when I was working in fashion, someone told me, hey, do you want to make like money?
Yeah.
Don't work in this industry. But, not everyone tells you everything.
Actually, I think she said that you will make no money. And I was thinking, gosh, I'm financing my whole education on student loans. How's that going to work?
Oh my God. I love that. Okay, so the wisdom came down to you. All of a sudden, light bulbs went up. And then what happened? Like, how did you start to then navigate what was going to be next?
Oh, I spent the next 3 years just messing around. I was, again, not a good student. Even in college, I was working at the bar on campus, which was the best job in the whole world. And I just thought, I'll just keep working at the bar and having fun. I'll kind of go to class, but not really. I have no idea what any of this is going to lead to. So again, like high school, I worked a lot and I made a half-hearted attempt with my education and really, really had no idea. And it was after senior year. Well, I spent 5 years at college. Let's just say that I was having such a good time. And then I went back to London because I had loved it. And when I was there, I just had no idea what to do. But I had seen this newspaper article about a new program being set up in my hometown that was a training program for public relations professionals. And it said it's a 1 year certificate at the local community college, and you'll be trained to be in public relations. But I had no idea what that was. So I read this whole big news article about every course and every description. And I just thought, I love the sound of all of it. Like every class sounded exactly like what things that I really loved. And I thought, I think I can do this. So I ended up applying for that program and was accepted when I was in London through the summer. And then I had been planning to stay in London for a while, but reverse coursing came back to Canada to take that 1 year diploma, which literally was the best idea ever.
Wow. That's so wonderful. And, I feel like also public relations is, it's not easy. Like, I mean, there's like learning the mechanics of it. Everyone seems to think it's easy, but at the end of the day, if you ever, I only did it for a year because I was like, this is
No,
too
thank you.
difficult. Like, this was really difficult. But most people don't realize how hard it is. I think I realized that it wasn't for me when I was like, oh, I have to go be friends with all these people I don't want to be friends with.
Yeah. No, thanks.
It's difficult. That is, and that also you have a lot of chops to be able to do something like that. So after you received the certificate, was it really, was that just really like the jumping off point to be like, all right, I'm a great storyteller. I'm a great communicator. Now I have some of the like, technical details and some skills here to launch this. Did that really set you on track to launching a career vis-a-vis the PR side?
Exactly. And I'm a huge supporter and advocate for community colleges to this day. And I spend a lot of energy and volunteer, and I'm on some boards with community colleges because that community college experience gave me the technical skill and the capability to get a job, and a job that would be a career. And that's what I really needed help landing. And that it did it for me. So that allowed me to take my first step into getting an actual salary, not an hourly rate, but my first salary, and set me off on the whole career that I've developed since, even though
That's so incredible.
yeah,
That's so incredible, Heather. So let's start talking a little bit about like career progression.
yes,
I think that in the beginning, PR like fashion, there's not a lot of money. It's like
yeah,
luckily for you, you are smart in marketing and developed yourself in like these strategic ways. But in the early on of our career, I feel like no one gets paid anything unless you're in the legal route or the iBanking route or,
yes.
something to that degree. So as you were starting to build your young life, and you're working and you're figuring things out, did you have the wherewithal to, negotiate for anything? Was it like, I'm just happy to have this job? Were there any sort of like retirement things? Like how savvy were you in these like, early days?
Oh, not savvy at all. So I was so grateful to have a salary with an annual salary. To me, I had made it. I think 30,000 a year was my first salary. And I just thought, I have made it. If I don't make another dollar, this is amazing. I've got everything I need. But in the next 2 or 3 years, I started my career. I serendipitously got a job in the tech industry. It was the late 90s. And it was 98, 99. I landed in a tech company. And I remember when I signed the job offer, they gave me stock options, and I had literally no idea what this was at all. And then over time, people there explained it to me. And so I cut out a picture of a Porsche coupe and I put it on the fridge in my, shitty little apartment that I could barely afford. And I thought, I'm going to get this someday. And that's when it was all of the hype starting around the tech industry. Like you can cash out and you can sell an IPO. And I just thought, I'm going to make some real money here. Okay, spoiler, I didn't make any money at that at that place, but at least got me into the language of what was going on in the technology industry. So I was making a decent salary with some potential upside, but I also was crushed by student loans at the same time because I had just been in college for 5 years. I'd taken student loans every year. Even though I'd worked a lot, I hadn't saved anything. And so I was in a position where the student loan debt collector started calling me at my job. And I was probably by that point 2 years into my career, and that really scared me. And they said, if you do not make a payment, we are calling your employer and we're going to garnish your wages. And
No way.
it was terrifying, yes. But it was the kick in the ass that I needed to start focusing on getting my financial life together. Until that point, I hadn't even thought about it really. I just knew I was in
Oh my
debt, and I
gosh.
probably always would be.
That is so it's scary to feel sometimes. I think it's like one thing when something happens to you and you feel like you can manage it. And then the moment it starts to impact or other people start to get roped in, it's like all of a sudden there's like the other shoe drops, and it's like, okay, this isn't something that I can just avoid or pretend or whatever the coping mechanisms are of feeling stressed out. And it's somewhat traumatic, right, to like be in this place of like all these things are happening. And unfortunately, our financial systems for college students don't actually tell anyone the implications
That's
of these loans. And so here you are, this young adult who's feeling, I imagine, this like crisis
yes.
of, my whole life is going to be over. I'm going to lose my job and all this stuff because of some jerk face loan collector who's like, trying
Yeah,
to intimidate you. It's
it
really
was.
awful.
Oh my gosh, it definitely worked. But I called a friend who worked he had a finance job in a bank. And we were really good friends. And I cried my heart out to him about this call that had come in. And he said, okay, I'm going to take you and we're going to set up in Canada, it's called an RRSP. Here's a 401k. We're going to set you up with an investment account. I said, did you not listen to me? I have no money. I owe so much money. Like, why would I ever open a retirement savings? And he said, we're going to put your financial future together. And he took me to help me sign up for it. And, I think I put $5 in every paycheck. And then he sat down with me and all my credit card bills and my student loan bills and taught me, okay, we're going to pay down the highest interest one first. And then you're going to take all the money you were paying on that bill, and then you're going to double up and you're going to pay the next one. And, core concepts I'd never learned before. So I'm very thankful to my friend Mark, who did that with me and started to help me get things together. That was the beginning of me figuring it out.
Amen to Mark.
Yes.
And also like how brave of you and courageous of you to ask for help.
Yeah. I was crying and, ugly crying. Oh,
but still, I think like the other layer of going through panic is isolation.
yes.
And certainly back then, it's not like there were so many tools and resources available like there are online. It's so many AI bots now to tell you how to fix all your problems. But back then, it's like you're only as good as the people who can counsel you and help you see things differently.
That's right. Yeah. And I didn't grow up with any of that. And so, yes, I was very thankful. And I guess by that point, I was living in Toronto and I saw what was possible with people's lives. I was looking ahead of me 10 years and seeing people with homes and families. And I had a feeling I can get there. But I have to do the work for it. And so I was willing to face it at that time too. So that did take a certain amount of courage to start figuring it out.
I mean, okay, so let's start talking about some professional inflection points. In the beginning, a lot of it I think is like, holy crap, life, how do I life? And and then there's a car payment or there's, this other thing or dinners become, it's like all of a sudden there's this transition into being an adult and it's fast and furious and not always pleasant. And then there start to be some inflection points, whether that is like career shifts or pivotal relationships in your life. Like, what were some of these inflection points and were they correlated to, working hard and getting paid more? Was it I'm asking for, a raise here? Did other things start to fall into place? Like what was the first pivotal inflection point?
Well, the tech startup that I was with, the first one, they ended up selling to a much larger corporation. And the first few months that I was working there, I had a review at the end, and so one inflection point was sitting down for that review with the two CEOs of the company, and they said to me in that meeting, "We only want people here who want to be in the top 10% of their profession, and you're not cutting it. You're not operating in a top 10% way." And I said, "Can you give me examples?" So they laid out 6 or 7 aspects of my role where they felt I was failing. And one of them in particular said, I want you to go home and think about it over the weekend. A lot of people don't want to operate at that level because it takes more than you're giving. So if you don't, just come back and let us know and we'll help you exit the company. But if you do want to be at that top level, you've got to change pretty dramatically how you're showing up. That was an inflection. This story is kind of hilarious. So I didn't know what any of this meant. I didn't know what it meant to be a high performer. There's no way I can Google it. Google's just starting. And so I just thought, I just need this job because I've just had this guy trying to collect my student loan from me. Now I'm not doing well, although I thought I was. And when I came back, I said, I really want to make this work. I want to be in the top 10%. So they gave me 30 days of Tony Robbins cassette tapes. And every day, one CEO said, listen to it every day, type me up some notes, and then come back and we'll have a conversation about it. And that 30 days of Tony Robbins helped me understand that I was fully responsible for my life. And it was that lesson that I needed to really charge my career up. Yes. So I went from, 3 months after that situation, they boosted my salary by $20,000, and I was not making a lot of money at the time. I completely changed how I showed up as a professional. And then when we sold this company, our company, to the next owners, it was a much larger organization, and I was ready for that. So I just really worked hard from that moment forward. Come in early, stay late, do what it takes, work what you need to work to deliver in the way you need to deliver. That was major inflection point.
Wow. How old were you when you were listening to these Tony Robbins tapes?
I was 26 or 27.
Wow. I think that there's something really unique, I think, when someone gets exposed to that type of, you know, thinking and language, and and depending on how young you are, it can have like really exponential effects in positive and not positive ways, right?
Yeah.
Like in all the ways. But I think that there's something interesting when you're young and you have access to information, if you will, in a way that other people don't naturally, right? And I think like understanding that we are in control of our thoughts, of our realities, of how we do things, to me is the most important component. But certainly that gets couched in lots of different messaging, and the Tony Robbins messaging is very bold and big. It is very much, it's big in probably the biggest way.
Yeah. It was really shocking to me. It's like, if I am fully in charge of my life, oh
Yeah.
no, I better do a good job of this. I can't blame anybody else. It's me. It's me. So that allowed me to leapfrog into a much bigger opportunity at another business that was a global technology company. And that job was an inflection point because I was able to travel. Somebody paid me to travel. I wasn't working at an NGO, I was working in a corporation, and they sent me all over the world. And it got me to California a lot, where I live now and ended up moving to. So that was another great step. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so let's talk about, I feel like this young Tony Robbins thing is fascinating. I'm curious to see like how else it will sort of weave itself. But obviously getting paid to travel is also a big deal when you're young. I feel like everyone's like, how do I see the world and not have to pay for it? How do I write off my meals and not have to pay for it? And so to have that early exposure to seeing the world, maybe it wasn't Gambia, but I'm sure it was other interesting other interesting and fun places. At what point did you start to feel things are materially changing for me? So a $20,000 bump is certainly like breathing, right? At that age, it's like I can finally do something maybe more significant than I thought I could. When did you start to realize like, oh, I can go beyond sort of breathing comfortably, but I can now maybe buy some things I want and be able to sort of live a little bit more comfortably, or maybe it's, save more, however, that sort of expression of like little bit more relaxation. How did that manifest for you? And what did you start to do with your resources?
Yeah. Well, when I got the increase to the 20,000 bump, my boyfriend I met my boyfriend last year of high school. So we were still together, and we had been talking about getting married. So I thought for the first time, I'm going to be able to pay my student loans on time, and we can plan for a wedding now. And
Wow.
yeah, so I thought all my friends were getting married. We'd been together a long time. I really wanted to marry him. So that's what we started to put money away for at that time. And so it was all about, bills in the future. Put money away for the bills and then plan for the future, which to me felt like relief, because I hadn't known, how am I going to be able to do a wedding? Can I get married if I can't afford to have an actual ceremony? So we started to work on that together, and just build our future from there. And it just was simple things. In the beginning, we ate out more. We could go to a concert in Toronto. Before that, we hadn't been able to afford tickets to do anything, or we could travel to the US and maybe do a holiday. So we started to spend a little more money on those kinds of luxuries, which felt really nice. And I just thought, I want more of this, and I know how to get more of this. I got to work for this. And so that was the pattern that I had. I'm going to work incredibly hard. I've got to invest in my professional development, which was the Tony effect in my life. I constantly developed myself and my thinking, because I knew that I could just do bigger and bigger things if I could keep working on that.
Oh, I love that. What were some of the tools or resources that you were referencing at those times?
Every kind of book that I could get on professional development, self, um, how do you talk to yourself well? Oh, somebody gave me a book, Jack Canfield's book, How to Get from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. Have you ever read that one? Oh,
I have not read it.
that was transformational. And then I did something geeky. Every city or and country I went to, I would try to find a copy of the book. I have so many copies in my house because everywhere I went, I would buy a copy because that book gave me the guide, to how to get from where I am to where I want to be, and helped me develop the vision about where I did want to be, because I had operated for so long without looking into the future too far, because I didn't feel I was equipped to do that. But then I started to really write things down. So it was during that period of time I'd moved to this global technology company still in Toronto. I was traveling to all these great cities and reading books like that. And I started to think, okay, I want to do my master's. I want to do my MBA. I was a terrible student, but if I want to really excel, I got to do things like that in my life. So I started planning, plotting, writing down my goals, breaking down the goals, and just kind of continuously working on myself.
Wow, that's so it's like this constant state of overcoming oneself,
Oh,
like
I still do that. I have to do that every morning.
yeah, yeah, no joke.
Yes, yes.
No joke. Okay, so you go and get your MBA. Love it, hate it. Was it good for you? Like, was it, what was the vibe?
Everything that I wanted. Okay, well, I went from Toronto to San Francisco, and it was when I landed in San Francisco that I signed up to go to do my MBA, because I was at another, like, a bigger global technology company, and seeing our CMO and how he operated. I just thought, I want to be in the room where decisions are made with the CEO. And when I went and I deconstructed, what do executives have in their background to get them where they are, it was an MBA. So I went to Dominican College in San Rafael. That's where I live now, and started the process of doing the MBA, which took about 6 years. For me, it was worth it, and I still use the tools from the MBA today. So I didn't love the process of it, because I was, of course, working full time and working overtime a lot, and going to school on the weekends. And by this point, I had a little girl, my husband. I got pregnant with my son first semester after I started my MBA. So there was a whole lot of
Oh
life.
my God, Heather.
Oh, it was insanity. It was total, like, I look back now and think, what was I doing? but, but I will tell you, my husband and I made a foundational decision when we decided to have kids. And that was that, because we moved to California shortly after we had our daughter, and he couldn't work here. He didn't have a visa. I had a work visa. And we decided he's going to stay home and he's going to be a stay-at-home dad, and that's going to be his career for the next 2 years plus. And he was so happy about it. And I was so happy about it, because I could really then lean into work in a way that I would probably have been challenged to if he had a job that was similar to mine. And so that gave me extra time, really, to do the MBA and the job and the kids and all of it, because he was at home looking after everything there.
I mean, you guys were having a really progressive modern day conversation at a
Yes.
time when I'm sure you were one of few friends who were probably
Yes.
setting up their lives like that.
That's right. Yeah. And nobody understood it. Certainly, neither of our families understood it. And lots of questions from them about, why are you doing this? And, why don't you stay home? Why doesn't he go to work? Like, wouldn't you be happier if you did that? Lots of judgment around it. But we, out of
Mm.
a values standpoint together, knew that this is working for us, and we're just going to keep going and doing it.
That's really powerful. And there's so much strength in that. I think that a big part of satisfaction of life is listening to what's right for you and the nucleus, and following that despite what other people might think or feel or say. And what
Yes.
was it like for him, to have, because I'm sure for him, I mean, as a woman who's like stepping into the forefront of moreness, right? Of like fuller expression of an identity that we're working so hard to define,
Yes.
right? Like this identity was a part of who you were, and you are now being able to do more of that, right? So for you, it was very like doors open, elevate,
Yeah.
go.
Yes.
Also has a lot of pressure, but like
Yep.
go flourish. Did he experience, or how did he sort of communicate this flourishing for him in a way that was deeply different, than what someone would think about as far as like expression of oneself in their life?
Yeah, it changed through the years. So when we first got to California, our daughter was just one, and he had to adjust because we in Toronto we had friends and family around, and then being in California, we didn't have anyone we knew. So he had to go out and establish himself in relationships. And he used to come home and say, "Oh, once again, the only dad at the playground," or "Once again, the only dad at the play group." And I think he struggled probably a bit with loneliness during that period of time. But he would always say, as I left every morning, he'd say, "You go get it out there. I got it in here." And I think he took a lot of pride for himself in owning that role within the family and knowing that we were really co-pilots together. You know, and he was always saying, like, what's next for you? Or if I had my MBA all weekend, what do you need me to get ready for you? What do you need for Monday? Because I know you got that trip after going to school all weekend, laundry or, dry cleaning or dinner, whatever it is, I'll get things lined up for you to help make it easier. So he felt like his role was a bit in terms of facilitating where I was going to go, because he could see I was doing what you just physically did, which I know the listeners can't see, but it's opening up and saying, "Okay, holy shit, world, look out! I'm coming for you. I'm going to get this master's. I don't know what's next after that, but it's going to be good, and I'm going to go get it."
It's so beautiful and wonderful to hear his experience or how he was experiencing that with you, because I think that there's something that's a real gift when you have a couple in partnership who are so transparent with each other
Yes.
that they have it's like it's a forced bond, but it's also like a forced vision, because if you're financially very interdependent, then it really forces the conversations around what's important, what do we want, how do we talk about these things at home. Like, it's so different than, I think, two different income producers who are like, I'll handle these bills, you handle those bills, but no one knows what else is going on from a financial standpoint. When things are interdependent in that way, I think it forces important and necessary and valuable conversations, and then also the ability to really be present for each other.
And a lot of compromise too around money. I remember during that period of time, people would say to me, "Oh, you're so lucky, your husband will stay home." Now, part of it was forced because he didn't have a work visa. But also it was a decision we made that we were going to operate on one income. Come to California, operate on one income for a while. Let's do it for 2 years and just see how things go and if we can make it happen. And then when we extended after 2 years, it ended up being, I think, 6 or 8 years before he could get a work visa. And we had to keep making that choice over and over again. So we didn't do fancy vacations. We didn't own a home when we first moved here. We still had our place in Canada. But those were financial decisions that were a compromise and probably set us back from a retirement standpoint and some of the long-term investments that we could have been making during that period. But I look at it now and I say worth it, because it did allow me to build up my experience, my education, and so I was able to catapult a bit later in my career. Once I got into my 40s, then I could really make leaps around things like equity and salary and things that could get us in the position we're in today.
Also, what a wonderful gift for your children.
Oh my
You
gosh.
know, like,
Yes. Yes. I have to tell you, I feel like it is one of the gifts I gave myself, is to have chosen a partner who, because my dad wasn't there for me, that is 150% there for our children and was the primary caregiver, and the relationship that they have, like, that's been a healing gift for me in my life. I feel very proud of him and us. Yeah. Have a little
that's
about
so, yeah, that is so beautiful. Okay, so you started talking about making big moves, getting into
that. Mhm.
equity. You're doing deals. Heather's like rising the ranks,
Yeah.
taking over the world. Let's talk about some of the bigger opportunities that would come your way, and sort of how you started to navigate what these larger roles were, and what are some of the ways in which you went about, let's just call it what it is, securing your financial outcomes and ensuring that, the time that you spent, going slow and steady and teeing things up now allow you to go fast and sort of get the thing you want.
Yes. Well, when we moved here, I talked about being with a global tech company, and that gave me experience with employee stock purchase program, which I did participate in. I took advantage of everything. And so anyone who's in a corporation with those types of programs, take advantage of them, because there is a return, even if you cash your employee stock purchase out right away. So the end of every quarter, I'd cash in my ESPP. I'd make 15% on what I'd saved, immediately have it, and then be able to decide what to do next.
Thanks, Mark, again. It's like Mark keeps showing up. All right, keep going.
Yeah, he sure did. He helped me with all those things. Let's see. And then I had stock options and RSUs when I was at that big tech company. So I started to realize, being part of a public company, what incentive packages could look like. I never negotiated during my time there. And I don't think it was on my radar that I could, honestly, that I didn't understand that I could. But then I left and I went to a pre-IPO startup. And then I was able to negotiate a package that had a much richer upside on the stock when we went IPO. And my salary was lower than it had been. So I had to sort of take a deep breath around lower salary, but better compensation if the stock did well. And we did IPO, which was great. There was so much I didn't understand, or questions I didn't know to ask, though, going into a pre-IPO company about, what's the equity look like across the board, and who are all the investors involved, and if we do
taxes,
like reverse stock split, if that's a possibility, and what does that mean? There's just so many things I didn't think to ask, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot, and to go through that process of I was a director of marketing inside a business, working with I got a board experience in that job. I got to go in and present to the board, working with the executive team. I was elevating the language of business that I had, and I had my almost done my MBA at that time. And then after the IPO, I'd only stayed for about a year, and it was the last leg of my MBA. I was doing a finance class, and the professor was saying something about, hey, when you're a CEO of a company, here's some things you should look at in the financials. And I was wanting to be a chief marketing officer. And I said, well, I'm going to be the chief marketing officer. What should I do? And he said, Heather, you are not thinking big enough. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, you are being trained to be a chief executive officer. You need to think about running a whole company, not a function of a company. And that was a lightning bolt for me. I left and I just thought I could not only be the right hand to the person in charge. I could be the person in charge of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I was like, I can't go back now to not think about that. I went home and I said, I have to be a CEO. Mike was like, what the hell happened at school today? I was like, I just learned I could run everything. And that's what this is all about. And so then it was like, what am I going to run? How am I going to get that experience? And I ended up going and meeting with a woman who had a public relations and communications agency, was in tech. And she said to me, what do you want to do next? And I said, I want to be running a whole company. And she said, come work for me and I'll teach you how to run a whole company. I'll give you the experience and be by my side, and I'll teach you how to do it. So that was my foray into, okay, now I'm on a track. I'm in consulting, in the technology industry still, and being able to really build into a CEO job. So I'll just keep going on that path, because we ended up selling that company to Hotwire, where I worked for a long time. I worked for 10 years. So I was part of, building that brand, meeting with potential acquirers, figuring out how do you do a deal, how do you sell a business, and how do you evaluate who's going to buy you. And then we sold, and it was very successful financially for me, that whole experience. And then I could really breathe. Then I was like, I got kids' college paid for. And having suffered with student loans, my number one goal with the kids is I just want to have school paid for them. I will be so happy. And so when I was able to do that, I was like, oh. And then I was like, okay, now what next?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think of like the moments that allow us to breathe, and it's interesting. It's like, it's always part of this journey or this healing from our past, this thing that we no longer want to feel anymore, or this ability to create. And I am so certain that your children have had a very different life than you had growing up. They will never know probably what it was like for you. And unfortunately, kids will have their own trauma, but it won't be yours.
Yes, they will have their own. That's right. Yeah, that's probably a whole different conversation around whether that is the right thing to do, to make. I was definitely providing a life for the kids I didn't have. And I still want them to have grit. And I still want them to have ambition. And, I want all of them to have all those things too. Those are really good things.
Wow. And so when you had this incredible financial moment, was it, what were some of the thoughts that were going through your mind? Was it, okay, stock up the 529s and like get this going. So check off this box. What were some of the other boxes that you felt you needed to check off in order to, let's say, like, be a good steward of this like event that has happened to you?
Financial advisor was first. So got serious about that and selected a financial advisor that could sit down with us and really look at the future 30, 40 years out and talk about what's this going to look like, and then be responsible with putting the money in all the right places. How much are we going to put into investments? And even things like our home. Are we going to invest in our home? How much money do we want to put towards that? And just thinking about the lifestyle that we want to have. So financial investor or financial advisor helped us a lot, really plan that out for us. The kids' education, and then really pretty quickly I turned to some fun money, because something I really wanted to do for a long time was to start being a venture capital investor. And I had been studying for a bit different Silicon Valley firms and how do you become a venture investor. I had no idea in the beginning. How much money do you need to put in? And then I had enough to be able to invest some money there. So that was my fun time. I was like, I'm going to be a VC now, and I'm going to become a limited partner in a fund. And I actually know what that means now. And I'm going to go and have that experience and kind of help put money into the next wave of innovation in the tech industry, which has been so important to me. So that was one of the early things I did.
It's just incredible. Some people are like, yeah, I'm going to buy the sports car. And you're like, I'm going to be an LP. So, that's not like, not on everyone's same sort of top of mind.
Oh,
How did you figure out, and what were the processes that you took to become a venture capital investor, to become an LP, to decide? I feel like these days, not then probably, but these days, there are so many funds, so many people are raising against so many incredible theses around what they want to create in this world. How did you narrow down becoming an LP for whom, and what did it feel like? What did it feel like to write that check? Because I think it's like a feeling.
Oh yeah, it is vibe for sure. Well, I had been working with a few startup founders as part of the consulting business I was with. And so I was always, I'd meet their investors and I was asking them questions and trying to dig into it. During that period, it was 2017, 18, there were some firms that were coming up that were really focused on investing in female founders and minority founders. That was of deep interest to me. So I looked more into those funds and I thought, this is values aligned and this is where I want to be investing when I can do it. And I just did introduction calls with them. And one of the first questions was, how much is the minimum to come in as an LP? And so I got the real information. And I think that's part of it sometimes, in demystifying areas where you're not sure what's going on over there, what's happening. Just ask a lot of questions. And I always felt, maybe because I was Canadian and coming to the States it was totally different environment for me. And I leaned into that. I would say, well, I grew up in Canada, so I don't understand the situation here. Can you explain to me what it's like here? And people would very willingly share information, which I love about the tech industry. They'll share. And then I understood, okay, I need this much money to get in as an LP, and the experiences I can have as part of that community, here are the benefits of it. And I had 2 or 3 options at that time I had narrowed in on. And I was just waiting. I thought, when I save enough, or I have enough, or this acquisition goes through, I know which one I'm going to pick first.
I love that. That's it's so fun, I think, to think about, that moment where you start to think beyond yourself and about like what the world is that you can actively create with your capital, with your time, with your energy. Like, it's a really powerful stance to have, which is like, I'm now thinking bigger, broader, even beyond owning a company. Now you're participating, or running a company, you're participating in like the actual development of economies, right? And of industry when you choose to invest as a venture capitalist, which is so interesting. So this year, you've had some incredible transitional changes, and you have stepped into what I think is is probably going to be something that you love and enjoy and keep doing over and over again, which is starting to build your own private equity firm and start to buy businesses and start to think about creating once again a step above. It seems like your life just keeps getting bigger, richer, more impact, more ways, if I can say, to play too, because it's kind of fun to be like, and I can do this and I can do that. And like, let's see all the things. But certainly buying businesses, being the owner of a company is not as safe and secure as working for a big company and having lots of support, if you will, to help execute. So talk to me a little bit about when you knew, like, when did you know that you were going to become an owner? And when did you know that you were going to be making this sort of transition into this next stage of your development?
Had been watching people in my network for probably the past 5 or 6 years, people who had made the leap and had started their own companies or bought companies, or they were buying and selling companies. They were entrepreneurs, and they were doing it, good and bad. And I was watching them. I was talking to them about it. I was reading stories endlessly about people who had made that leap. And I always thought, I don't know if I have the confidence to do it. And then I thought about, well, what would it take for me to have the confidence to do it? And really, it came down to money. At the end of the day, I felt my skills were there. I'd been running businesses. I knew how to do that. But I had sort of avoided looking at, okay, what are the real financials about what it would take for me to do it? And then when I got comfortable with that, writing down, okay, how much money would we need to operate on as a family for a year if I started a business and we had no income? I was doing that work to understand it. And then I got to a place financially where I said, okay, I've hit the numbers that I felt like I needed to be able to make the leap. I didn't expect to buy a company. I thought I would go out and start something new. However, I had been a client of this company a long time ago. And when the owner called and said, I'm going to move on to my next thing that's happening in my life, and I'm going to sell the business, should I want you to buy it? And I said, you want me to buy? Okay. Which was so funny because during my 10 years at the consulting firm, I had led 3 acquisitions of businesses. I had been part of selling a business. Like, I really knew this space. But suddenly when it was my money, me, oh, different situation, right? Like, my real money? Buy what? With a what? How? So when my panic brain calmed down, I thought, I know all the mechanics of making this happen. I know the good stories and the bad stories around acquisitions. I just need to figure out the money piece. And that's where the financial advisors came in very helpfully. I called and I said, I have a wild idea of something I want to do. What do you think? And they said, well, there's 3 different ways you can do it. And they took me through each option, and here are the pros and cons of each of them. And I sat with that. And then after looking at the options, one was very clear to me, which is putting our money into it, personally financing this whole thing, and really saying, like, looking myself in the mirror, say, Heather, do you believe in yourself enough to do this? Your money, your actual money's on the line. And I said, I do. I don't know what it is. I do. I'm going to go do it. Yeah. Yeah. So bought the business, which is the first acquisition. And the dream is to go on and do many more acquisitions and really help other founders build their businesses as part of a community of companies.
I mean, it's so amazing. You have this wonderful, corporate success, navigating the corporate world. Keep pushing yourself to see what's bigger, and then you keep growing into those spaces, right? It's like every time you put something out there, the universe seems to deliver, which is really amazing, right? You just don't know how.
Don't know which way it's going to show up, but it shows up. Yeah. So I'm in it now, a few months into it, and really excited, happy that I made the change, and wake up every morning. I don't feel panicked or worried, even with, everything going on in the world, but just, I've got to say to myself every morning, I believe in my ability to do this, and I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make it work. I can.
I hope your close friends and loved ones tell you this, but girlfriend, I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's a
you're doing it.
Yes. Thought about it for a long time, long time. And now I am doing it. Yes. Yeah.
I love that so much. So, obviously it's like, I feel like if I talk to you in 2 years, they're going to be like, and then there's like 3 more businesses and then this thing. And so I'm grateful to know you and to be your friend and to sort of see these evolutions of your incredible life. And speaking of evolutions, obviously, I do believe that we are all going to be living to our early 100s, and that's going to become the new norm. And it feels to me like your life has been full of possibility and expression and intentional design. But I'm curious to hear and would love to know, as you sit back and look at your life from this vantage point of 104, what is the legacy or the life body of work that you see, Heather, that you have created? What is the fingerprint or the stardust that will be left on this planet for you?
Oh, well, I hope I'm still working till then. When I left my corporate job, I had so many people email and say, "Are you retiring?" Like, retiring? Are you fucking
God, no.
No, that sounds horrible. I'm just getting started. I really want to keep the possibilities open forever. And I think there's always going to be something interesting to do. So I really do hope that I have some varied career up until I'm 104. And, with the business I have today and what I want to do in the future and all the people I've worked with in the past, I've always wanted to help others see that there's something in them that they need to, that they can unlock to achieve the next level for themselves. And so I really want people to say, like, she helped me see something I couldn't see in myself, or she gave me an idea that led me to the next big thing in my life, that she helped me see more than I could see myself. And so people say that about me. I'm so very grateful for a life well lived. I think that would be great.
I mean, Heather, it's just the story of your life today, I think, has shown so much possibility.
Yes.
And the power of speaking the things you want into the world, like it's really an incredible journey of that. Obviously, we talked a lot about, money and earning it and different ways we can invest it and all of that stuff. And certainly money is also really fun and enjoyable. And you demonstrated that when you were in high school and college. It was like, I'm going to make this money. I'm going to have a good time. I would love to know now, thinking about all the fabulous ways in which you spend your money, what has been one of your most favorite recent ways in which you've spent your money?
All right. Well, I have bought a few years in a row a subscription to Inspirato, which is a travel service company. Do you know them?
Oh, no. What a pro tip. Spill the tea.
Yes. Okay. Inspirato, you pay an annual membership fee, and they have different memberships you can buy. But one of the memberships is you can have unlimited high-end hotel stays as part of your membership. So you can book at this, they have, 800,000 properties around the world, and you book, you stay, you don't pay anything when you're at the hotel. It's part of your subscription package. And then as soon as you check out, then you can book your next stay at the next hotel.
Oh my God.
That has been a luxury beyond luxuries and a real gift that I gave myself and I gave my family to spend some of our hard-earned money on travel and experiences, which I think are the best way to spend money.
I'm totally Googling this after I like, this is amazing.
Inspirato.
Oh my God, this is so fabulous. Inspirato. Okay, got it. Got it.
Yeah.
And then my last question for you is, everyone who's on the show, the women who listen, and there are men as well. But what we are really known for is rallying around incredible, powerful women who are up to big things in the world. What is it you're calling in right now? How can we support you? What do you need? Do you need like a spa recommendation? Do you need more people to do business with? Do you need like what is it that you are needing right now, and how can we support you?
Right. I've got two. One is a business ask. So I've acquired this business, the Content Bureau. We are B2B content marketing, and I am looking for more clients who need a kick-ass content marketing agency partner as they go into 2026. So new clients in the B2B space. That's what I'm looking for. My second one is more about my heart. I really would love to talk to anyone who's looking to up-level their own thought leadership platform in 2026, executive women. I tend to speak about this topic a lot because I do want, like what I get to do here and your other guests get to do is tell our stories on big platforms. And many people limit their thinking about what's possible in telling their stories. So anyone who wants a little kick in the butt around that, send me an email.
Oh my God, Heather, you got it. Like
Yeah.
done and done.
Yes.
Like, let's get rich together.
That's
Let's like
right.
make tons of money and
Yes.
have all the clients
Love
come
it.
in.
Yep. Yep. Build our
I'm into
businesses,
it.
help each other, support each other, all of it.
Heather, it's been an absolute gift and treasure to have you here today on the show. Thank you for your spirit, your kindness, your generosity, for living the biggest, most fullest life that you can. You stand as an inspiration to so many. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. This is the conversation we come back to every single week. Real women, real wealth, and what becomes possible when we stop being silent about money. If today's episode moved you, don't let it stop here. Wealth Catalyst is where women go to take it further. Our Freedom Tour salons are gathering women in 32 cities this year. Intimate evenings in homes and private spaces where women talk honestly about money, risk, and what they're building. And if you're ready to go even bigger, join us at the Wealth Catalyst Summit, a full-day event in San Francisco this October. Find your city and claim your seat at wealthcatalyst.com. We'll see you there.